Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and today I am going to make some buttons. So I did treat myself to the We Are Makers button press and it's a lot of fun. It takes a little bit of practice, so if you do get this, I would definitely recommend either picking up a bundle that comes with some refills, or just go ahead and get yourself a refill pack, and that way you'll have plenty to just play around with and experiment with. Because if you're gonna make a handful or so, I think you're gonna want to make more than that even. So if you can get a good deal on the refills, definitely do so. So let me kind of give you a tour of the button press itself. I have it sitting on its side just so that you can see the profile. You'll have this kind of sitting up on your desk work like that. So the handle here, this is what's the pressing action. So this is going to essentially be how we push all of the pieces together to create the button. Here we have a top plate and we have your base platform. And on here, there's actually arrows or little triangles really that are, this is metal right here. This down here is plastic. So here it's molded into the plastic. Here it's actually stamped into the metal. And that's going to be key so that we line up everything correctly. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a bit. And it is on both sides, so whichever side is just easier for you to visually see, go ahead and use that side. The base does swing, and that gives you easy access to it. And that way you can, there's actually a magnet on inside the base here, that metal part, that's a magnet. And at the top, it's hard to show, but there's a magnet in here too. And the magnets are what will hold your base plate and your top plate. And what do I mean by that? So with just the basic button press, you will get a couple of different things. You'll get a pair of cutting plates. One of them is smaller than the other. The larger one that's kind of flat, it doesn't have a magnet. This part does have a magnet, so the larger one actually fits at the bottom. And you'll find that it spins. There's no real correct orientation on that piece. The other piece is your top piece. And you can see there's actually notches. There's 4 notches. So you just want to make sure that those 4 notches line up with the notches on the top there. See how these come down? So you want to just line that up so that they insert one into each other. It'll basically only fit one way. So the combination of these 2 plates will be what allows you to actually cut your piece of paper that has whatever design that you want on your button. And I say paper because I haven't experimented with anything other than paper, so maybe you can do other things, but paper is what I know works. So I'll just stick to what I know, and I am not an expert at this. Included also with your base machine is a set of plates for medium size buttons. And here you're gonna get 3 different plates. The first one is your cutting plate. So you want your base and your top plate here in your machine. And there's this piece that's black. Don't push down entirely because there's actually a cutting blade that is embedded in this foam here. This is black foam. You want that part down, you want your piece of paper in here, and I will demonstrate, I'll make some buttons, but for right now, I just want to show the different pieces. And this, once you press down on your lever, it's going to exert pressure onto this and cut through your paper. And that's going to give you the perfect size piece of paper to create your button with. Then the next set of plates that come with the medium set are your top plate, which is going to be clearly labeled top, and your bottom base plate, which is going to be clearly labeled base. And when you insert this in, essentially what you're going to want to do is, when we operate this, we're going to want the, it's hard to do on the side, but you'll want that arrow to be able to line up with the A and the B arrows on your plate. So once you put this in, you'll be able to kind of rotate it back and forth. And then on the top side, and when I actually demonstrate how to make a button, I'll set up my close-up side view so that you can actually see it nice and close from the side view. But right now, I think it's enough just to show the pieces, and then it'll all make a little bit more sense when we start to make some buttons. But similarly to the bottom, you have A and B, and you also have this notch. So that notch again needs to fit initially into where we have that, and it'll fall down a little bit, so it won't stay in there. And the reason is because you also need to rotate this back and forth between positions A and position B. So that's how it'll look. So the button press has a lot of different types and sizes of buttons that you can create. And each of them does come in this set of 3 plates. I don't have them all. I have the medium, which comes with. I picked up separately the large. So again, here's the base, here's the top, and here's the cutting plate. So I've got medium, I've got large, and then I also have the square one. So same thing, there's a base, there is a top, and just like everything else, there are magnets on these so that they are held firmly in the machine. And for the square, there's also the cutting plate. So you do get, you can buy these separately. Also, I forgot to mention, with the button press, if you just get the button press machine itself, you do get some buttons to start with, 5 in fact. And anytime you buy one of the cutting plate sets, you also get a sample pack of 5 buttons for that particular shape and size. So that way you can actually, right out of the gates, start making some buttons. But I think what you'll find is that you can go through 5 really quickly, and they might not all come out perfectly. I still think that, I'm still learning and perfecting, but I am starting to get pretty consistent results. And so I thought it would be safe to actually show on camera how to make some buttons. But keep in mind, with the base kit, just what you see here, you are going to get some buttons to start. So you really don't have to buy anything else if you don't want to. But as I mentioned, I would definitely recommend buying a set of refills. And that way you can really start making more straight away. And I think you won't feel so bad if, at least this is how I felt, if you mess up a couple, because you'll know you have plenty more to play with. So what I have done and what I'm working on today is I am actually going to create some buttons to give to my channel members as just little thank yous, little happy mail. And what I've done already is gone into my favorite photo editing software and just designed some buttons. So I looked at what the dimensions are for the different buttons, and I've created them templates for them so that I can just easily print, cut out a bunch, and then turn them into buttons. And then I can save that file, and anytime I need to make more buttons, I can just print out more. So this is the large size buttons, my two versions of my avatar. The medium size buttons I'm going to use for member badges, so you get a different little character depending on how long you've been a member. And for the first year, everybody, if they stay at least a month, they get the panda avatar, so or badge I should say. So I want to make pandas and send that out to all of my panda members, and then I have just my logo as I thought the square format would be great because my logo fits pretty well in that square format. So once I get to this point, and I can show one of each just so that you can see. What I like to do is I like to go ahead and cut this down a little bit just so that I'm working with a smaller piece of paper. It just makes it easier to fit into the machine and do your cutting. So I don't know how many I'll make, but I did make sure that when I created these designs that it's actually larger than the size of the button itself. And that way I get a nice full blade that wraps all the way around. And you'll see what I mean when we have some finished buttons. So let me just cut off a couple of these just so that we can make a couple in each of the sizes. The process is the same for all of them really, but I want to be able to show you some comparisons between the different size buttons if that's what you're interested in. The two that I don't have are the heart shape buttons and the small circular. I think small for my purposes feels a little too small. I really like the size of the large, and I think the medium is the smallest I would want to go. You don't have to cut this super close because we're going to use the cutting plate that comes with each set to actually cut this perfectly into the shape that's needed. But I just like to cut it down so that it's a little bit smaller, and that way it'll fit really easily into the base there. Okay, so I've got everything trimmed down. Let's start with medium because that's actually what you will get in your kit. If you're just buying the button press and you don't have the additional inserts. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of a break here, set up my side view camera so you can get a nice close-up, and that way you can watch from top down as well as from the side. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is actually cut our image. So this is what I want to turn into the a button. And again, I'm making the medium size button. So what I'm going to start with is I'll swing this out, put the base plate on there, gonna put that down, and then I am going to grab the cutting plate for the medium size button. So that's this right here. And what I want to do is I want to kind of center my design. So you can see there's a light blue background, and I've made it large enough so that I have plenty of room to wiggle room to kind of adjust this. I don't have to get it super straight on. I've got some wiggle room there. And I'm gonna put our top plate in, making sure the notch fits in there. Swing this base platform back around, make sure it's nice and in the right location, and then I'm going to push down on the lever. And I don't know if you could hear it, but often you can kind of hear it actually cutting through the paper. Now, if you're not sure, maybe give that a little rotation, 180 degrees, and press down again. And I don't hear that paper getting cut through, so I think we are good. And so if I flip back around, you can see I like to just hold it just in case I need to put it back, but that cut through just fine. So that's how you would cut. And the next step, we want to remove our cutting plates and replace them with the button making plates. So this is our base. So I'm going to put that in here. You'll kind of hear it sort of lock in place. Then I've got my top plate, and I want to swing this over, and that's how it goes in. But in order for this to work, you need to actually let it drop down. So push it up just so that the magnet can grab it, but then let it drop down. Rotate this to the A position, because that's where we're going to start things. And then on this side of things, there's an arrow here. You want to rotate the base to the A position as well. So you want to make sure that A is lined up with the arrow or that triangle at the bottom. So this can actually rotate back and forth between B and A. So B and A. The top can rotate back and forth between A and B. You always want them to be matching. So arrows, A, arrow, or triangle. And when we're ready to go to the B, we want to rotate or turn both of those plates to their B positions. But let's go back to A, because that's where we want to start. Okay, I'm going to swing this out so that we can start loading. Now, the buttons come in 3 parts for every button that you create. So the first this is the top of the button. And you can see it's concave here. There's a sharp edge here, so be careful. So that smooth, shiny side is the top. You've got the back of the button with the pin. So you've got that, and then you have just this bit of acetate or mylar, really thin stuff. Now make sure these come in a pack like this. Now make sure that you only have the one, because it's pretty thin stuff. So just make sure you only have one, and that there aren't 2 that might accidentally be stuck together. You may want to, have a little bit of a cloth just to wipe off any fingerprints, because especially on the inside, you're never going to have access to clean that up again. So you do want to take note of that. And the other thing is, let me show you close up. I'm going to remove that for a sec. There's a groove here, that groove line. And that's going to tell you the horizontal line, so that when you go to put your button to assemble it, that everything is lined up the way that you would want it to be, so that when somebody puts the pin on, if the pin is horizontal like this, then the design is going to be oriented the correct way. It's a little bit less important if you're making a pin that doesn't have a correct orientation. So here are my 2 lines. I've dropped my button smooth top side down, or top side up, sorry. Then I want to put my design paper. This is just my digital color copy paper, so it's a little bit nicer than just office paper that I would use, but it's still pretty thin, and I think thin is all you need. You probably don't want to do a cardstock in here. So make sure there's no dust or anything, because the next piece that goes on top of this is that plastic mylar, and see that shine, so you've got that plastic, so that's going to trap anything that's in there. So if there's dust or anything, it's going to get trapped in there. So just make sure that everything's nice and clean, that your image is correctly oriented, with this being your sort of horizon or horizontal line there. And then we can put this back on the base. Now we do want to make sure that when this is in, you hear that click. That means it's locked into place. The magnets have kind of held in place. Make sure that's oriented. And then let's make sure that on our sides here, all of the arrows line up with A, and A. So it should look like this. It may move around a little bit on you. So once you have it in the right position, everything is lined up. Then all you need to do is the same thing with that same lever. You just want to give it nice, firm downward press. And what you'll find is that by doing that, the first step is it's just going to create that top. And you can see it's missing now. It's basically been pushed into a cavity that's on your top plate. And so what I mean is your top plate looks like this. And that is what's held in the base machine. And this is that cavity where the button goes in. And basically the button, if it looks, this is the large one, it basically got pushed in there. You can see this is a pretty tight fit, but that's just the metal portion. Once you get the mylar and the paper, and that by pressing it up in here, it's enough to actually, those extra layers of the paper and the mylar is enough to actually get it kind of stuck in there. So that's what's happening when you push down. When you push down, it's actually pushing all of those layers in, and this top plate is actually going to hold it in place while we assemble the rest. Now, we were here at A, now let's rotate to B. So when you rotate to B, you're going to find that a couple things happen. So see on this inside plate here, there's some groove lines. Those groove lines need to match up with these groove lines, again, giving you that horizontal registration so that you know whether you're lining up your pin correctly. So this is the back. You want your pin to be lined up horizontally so that when somebody actually puts, you know, the pin onto a board, or, you know, onto their jacket or their book bag or wherever, that the design actually looks correct. So when you look at this, there's actually like a little zigzag. Here's the pin itself and the little clasp. See, that's the pin and the little kind of hook to keep that pinned in place. So this little zigzag, this is actually what needs to be face up, because recall our button, when we did the initial pressing, if this was the top plate, our buttons is like that, with the top touching here and the inside of the button down here. So to complete the assembly, we actually want to put the bottom in here and push it all together, sandwich it all together with the pin portion underneath. So let's make sure that our pin is lined up. So you basically just want the pin to follow the lines, the grooves on there. And I'm gonna spin that in place. So I've got, right now I have arrow A, B, arrow. What I want to do is make sure I turn this to B. So now everything is lined up with the arrows and everything reads B. And same thing, just nice, firm. You don't have to put all of your weight into it. Just give it a nice, firm press. And I like to just hold it for a second when it's all the way at the bottom. And then that should put everything together. And there we have our button. And to get this out, you just need to tip it out. And there's our button. And so you can see, here's the pin. You can release the pin, and the pin is like this. So everything is nice, oriented the correct way. So that's how easy it is. Let's make another one. Let's do a large one. And I'm going to show something a little bit different that you can do with your buttons. That is totally optional, but just another way to use them. And so again, we're gonna start the same way with using our cutting set. So that's just the plain kind of off-white set, matches your matches the machine actually pretty well. I've cut my little avatar. So then I will use the plate, the cutting plate that goes with, this is the large button. Everything's color coordinated, so it's easy to tell what's what. And same thing, I'm just gonna kind of eyeball what's sort of centered there. Put this with the black or that foam side down. Swing this underneath our platform and then just push down on the lever. I don't know if you could hear that, just that crackling, that's the paper being cut through. And so you can see cuts perfectly. There's a little bit, that's not a problem. And then, so we have that. Now we can remove our cutting plates and we can make a button now. So same thing, the large button is just like the medium button in that there are 3 different pieces that come, and you've got your mylar, you have the top of the button, and you have the pin and the back of the button. Now, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to remove the pin. And instead of making like a pin button, I'm going to make a magnetic button. So you can remove this, you can save it to use for something else maybe. I don't know what that would be, but but you can save it. And now we're going to do the exact same thing that we did before. So the top plate I want to insert, and there will be those notches that you can insert them into. There we go. And once it's in, just let it drop down, and you want to make sure you can see the A and the B lined up with your arrow. So there we go. Oops. There we go. So now you can see you can switch between A and B. Okay. bottom base needs to go in, and you'll be able to kind of hear it click in place. And again, you're going to need to be able to rotate that between B, A, B, and A. And the assembly is the exact same steps. So we take our button, we put the pretty side, the top side, face up, right in there. Take your design, and this is a little hard to see, but there are the same grooves that show you the horizontal line. So you just want to make sure that your image kind of matches with those horizontal lines. And then your Mylar, I'm gonna give that a nice wipe. Definitely wipe it really well, at least on the one side, which would be the inside, because the top side you can always wipe after. You'll have access to that. Okay, so everything is nice and lined up still. I want to actually, I want to make sure that everything is in position A. Okay, so we have arrow, A, arrow. And same thing, just, I like to do this, when I press down, I like to press down while I'm standing. Not because I feel like I need to put my whole weight into it, but just because I want to make sure I am getting pretty firm pressure. Now, the A part, I think there's less chance to go wrong, because all that's happening is this is getting pushed, the top of the button is just getting pushed into this little reservoir here. It's the second step when we actually put our, where you would normally see the pin. That's where there's actually, you really need some firm pressure, because that's when this is actually crimping around the different layers of the button, and all of the Mylar needs to get kind of rolled underneath this. So I'm gonna go ahead, switch this to the B position. And less important with this, because we are just making a magnet, so there isn't the pin. But just for reference, this is how it looked with the pin. And the pin would normally be face down. So if you're gonna remove the pin, just remember that this, with the smooth side of the rolled metal, that's the outside. So we want that face down, and this sharp side face up. And if you still want your holes here, because they may still be visible, to kind of line up in the correct orientation, you can still have the holes follow your horizon lines if you want. I'll just aim for that. So how that would look if you were making a pin is it would look like this. It would get inserted that way. All right, so now we're going to swing this back over. We've got bottom, triangle or arrow, B. Now we need to switch the top over to B and line that up with the arrow, so everything lines up. And here again, just give nice firm pressure on the lever. And again, with this one, I like to kind of just hold it at the bottom there, really make sure that it's got firm pressure. And I'm gonna swing that out, and there's my button. So to get that out, just flip that over, and you can see how neatly it crimps everything. And because I designed my image to be larger than the button, I have this kind of full bleed effect of the color and part of the patterns and whatnot wrapping all the way to the inside. To turn that into a button, or a magnet, sorry, really easy. I'm just gonna use some E6000 and a magnet, a round magnet. This is a pretty strong magnet, and it's about, I think, 1/2 inch wide. And all I'm gonna do is just put, you don't need a lot, just gonna put a little dollop in the center here. And so just be careful when you do this, not to kind of pinch yourself, but all I'm gonna do is just hover and just let it drop. You can kind of squish it around a little bit, and it's a magnet, so it's going to make really firm contact with the button. And if you have like a lot of the glue that's oozing off the side, you can just wipe that off if you want to really neaten that up, and that way you don't have a ton of glue off to the side there. And then the magnet's just going to hold it there for you, so you don't have to worry about that, and just let this dry. And that's it. So that's another thing that you can do. You can turn your buttons into magnets, and they would make kind of cute fridge magnets, for example. Okay, and then I'll show all of that one more time, this time with my square buttons. So as with the other two, gonna start with the cutting plate. So get these inserted in, and I have the square cutting plate that came with the buttons, and just gonna line that up, kind of get it as centered as I can. I think that's about right. Get that nice and centered on this base also. Swing it over, and nice firm pressure. I kind of heard that crackling, so I think it cut through pretty well. So not 100%, which is fine. If that happens, you can always give it a little bit of a trim, because a lot of this is just overhang, so you're not going to see everything out to the border of this. The design, the button, the way I designed it, and the way that the die is designed to cut, it's a lot larger than what is your actual button. So for example, this was my printed design, and the actual button is only that much of it. There's quite a lot of excess room there. Then we can take out our cutting base plates or platforms and swap them for our button making ones. So we have our base here. We want to put that in. Make sure it can switch between A and B. And then same with the top. Get this in. And make sure that can drop down and actually turn between A and B. And we're going to start with A on both sides. And this is the first time I'm doing square buttons, but they work the exact same, so I'm guessing I'll have decently good success. So same 3 pieces for every button that you make. So we have the only difference is that this feels thick. That the back there is actually plastic and not metal. So that's the only difference that I see so far. But assembly is going to be the same. So we want to drop our top there. There are our grooves for that horizon line. And so I want to drop my design in. Then give this a nice wipe. this is my Mylar piece here. And put that down. And yeah, that was on the top. Okay, so everything's still lined up. Everything is in the A position. Okay, A, and lined up with the arrows. And so again, we'll do nice firm pressure. The top part, don't have to worry about putting a lot of firm pressure because, as I mentioned, all that's doing is just, you know, kind of getting the top of the button into that cavity just so that it can hold it in place. And we'll make this a pin. So we've got our pin back here. And this is where you actually open and close the pin. You want that face down. And you want the little squiggle face up. Rotate your base to B. And now you see all of your lines. The line on the top here, the line on this bottom piece of plastic here, and then the lines there. You'll see all of those grooved, kind of engraved lines. They all line up now, and that's the same. It should follow the same line as your pin. And so just put that in place and swing this back around. Now we want all of these to line up, so I'm going to rotate that to B. And when I press this one, this is the one where I want to actually give it nice firm pressure and then maybe just hold it for a second at the bottom and make sure that it's really kind of, you know, sandwich everything together. And there is my pin. So you can see it's wrapped around to the side. It's nice and enclosed. So that's these pieces all fitting in together. It's just that extra depth or thickness from the Mylar and the paper that when the back of the button and so you can see this is the button top, the metal pieces for medium. It's a little bit loosey-goosey, but it's when there's that extra paper and the Mylar that's rolled in between here, this gets sandwiched in there. So that's why you're going to need a little extra pressure to get this kind of pushed in there snug so that it really does clamp down on the plastic and on the paper. And I didn't do a great job of centering this, but it's decent and it's handmade. So I don't mind that it's not perfect because I'm not perfect. So every button is going to be unique. So that is the button press, and I hope that it kind of makes sense, you know, how to use this, and I'm really excited. I am very excited to be able to offer these as little goodies to my channel members. I made some buttons for my moderators who help me run my Crafty Fun with Friends of LV Handcrafted Facebook group, and they're also really active in my live stream as well. So they're I used the buttons I made for them as sort of a practice run for this set of buttons, but I'm really excited to make these and start putting some happy mail out to my channel members. If you're not familiar with channel membership, it's basically a YouTube creator's way of giving their audience a way to support them financially. Not required. All of my videos are free. I do have some exclusive videos for my channel members, but by and large, my tutorial card making videos are free. You can access them. I don't need anything more than just you watching my videos, enjoying my videos, maybe liking and commenting on them. But I do have the dream of one day being able to craft full time, and for that dream to be realized, my crafting hobby actually needs to make some money and bring in some revenue to offset both my costs, but also to be a little bit of a sustainable living. And I'm fortunate that my husband makes a really good living, and I am a business consultant by day, but that doesn't mean that I can even though my husband makes a good living, that doesn't mean I want to just not work and contribute anything financially to our household. But I am lucky that I work for myself. I'm a consultant, so I can take as much or as little work as I like. And I think for me, being able to earn a living, earn an income through my crafting, it's going to be easy for me to kind of adjust how much consulting work I take in order to make that transition. So I don't necessarily have to dive all in 100%. I can make sort of a slow transition if that's what I need to do. But that is my goal. And so channel membership is a way for me to earn a little bit of a stable income month to month, give some extra benefits, perks, goodies, content, etc. for those of you who are kind enough to support me through channel membership. And these buttons are just like a fun thing that I can drop in the mail along with maybe a card or some other goodies, just depending on your membership level. And it's just my way of thanking you and my way of kind of inviting you into that that exclusive kind of club of members, so that way everybody kind of gets their membership badge, and if you're a longtime member you can collect them through the years, and it's just something fun to do, and lots of different things that you can be doing with your button press in general. I think they make for fun little gifts for anyone really, but this is why I bought it, and to be gifting things to my channel moderators and my Facebook group moderators is another bonus too. So I like to just put a little happy mail out there, and I think this has been a really fun purchase for me, and so I'm having a lot of fun creating with it. Let me know what, if you have a button press, what you do with your buttons, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.